So I found out about Acts 29 through a Desiring God conference. This was back in 2007, a long time ago. And God used that network to give me a vision for what pastoring could be like. And so when we planted a church, we ultimately wanted to have a global partner. That was our desire from the beginning. And then lo and behold, a member of ours went and did 4 months in a city called Gulu, which is in northern Uganda. She was helping a missionary family with their disabled child, being a nanny.
I get to hear about Acts 29 after we've already planted University Community Church in Gulu, and still desiring theological training, still desiring some partnership and connection with a church planting network like Acts 29. So I meet a young man that I knew who was engaged with to get married to a missionary girl who had come to visit, and I was volunteering and serving here in Gulu. But in our conversation, somehow she mentions that she attends the church that is part of Acts 29.
And so the next year in 2018, I went over to see the city, to see the church, to meet people. And so I saw for myself that this was a legitimate opportunity to partner with a global church. And so once we found out that Jimmy was looking for Acts 29 as a partner network, we helped him to get into the assessment process.
And if you know something about the church landscape in Uganda, the kind of gospel that is preached here, prosperity gospel, and things that lean more towards African traditional religion, and some things are purely occult, you just see it.
In the early 70s, the violence, the change of governments in the 70s, the 80s, up to I think through to 2013, that brought about a lot of material poverty, but also spiritual poverty, because the type of gospel that was preached then was still prosperity gospel.
But the more I prayed about, and as we had conversation with Pastor Chris, I remember one day he asked me, what can we do about these things that are happening in your country? And that day I began to pray some more about this, and I began to have conversation with different pastors who were like, we need to have a conference.
After coaching went so well, Jimmy said, is there any way we could do this with other pastors here in Uganda? And I said, sure, why not? How do you want to do that? And he said, what if we did a conference where we could help train and coach and resource with good books and good gospel material other pastors? And I said, sure, let's try it.
For the first time in my life, I'm almost getting emotional. For the first time in my life, I came to a pool of men who just loved to expose Scripture. And my life has never been the same.
They said, can we do this again next year? We said, sure. And so we scaled it up. So in the next year, the second year, we brought just as many books and had almost 100. So we've been doing that same thing now. And we've been promoting Acts 29 as a network.
The connection with the Tano City Church and ultimately to Acts 29 was really an answer to prayer. And I believe that many churches like that, like we were, are out there. Churches that maybe honest brothers who are trying to do something meaningful, but they don't know exactly what that looks like and also how to do it, to go about it.
In my view, Acts 29 makes it very easy for me to partner because they've already been assessed. We already know their doctrine is solid. And if they match up with the 5 core distinctives of Acts 29, then we feel like this is a good opportunity for us to partner. And so now we went from one partner with Jimmy, and now we're working with several, and also then every conference trying to move men towards Acts 29's assessment process, which we know if they make it through that, they'll be a much more healthy church and church planter. Every pastor or pastoral team has a responsibility to raise up other leaders, to see people come from conversion and grow up into leadership, perhaps even planting churches out of an existing church plant. And we're trying to see that happen not only in our own churches here in the States, but we want to see that globally as well.